Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm D. Bowden. I'm here with the fabulous Stephanie Smith. We're here putting our contribution on Financial Literacy Month to talk about Cash Flow Chronicles. Welcome to the stage, Stephanie. What's going on? How you doing?
I am just sharing on my Facebook page, but I am excited. Today is the first day of spring break for us here. So I did take the week off, nice long week off. But I'm good. Excited to be here. D, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Saturday morning. I'm feeling refreshed, ready to have this conversation. I got my tea, so you know how we do. Let me make sure I got the banners going, and so I don't know which one of us is going to lead the conversation, but got your banner. Make sure I got my banner flowing. So, all right, let the games begin.
It is a Saturday. That's okay.
What'd you say?
I said it is a Saturday.
Hey, you know how we do. We always jump off with some comedy, a little bit of humor. Listen, because talking about money is always one of these conversations. But I think the fact that we've got Cash Flow Chronicles, the fact that we've got a really good topic today, I want to make sure we get into that. As we were kind of brainstorming last night about getting paid shouldn't feel like pulling teeth. And I know I jokingly say most people say, hey, I'd rather get a root canal than have to go ask somebody for my money, because it's like, listen, how come I got to come back and ask you to pay me when I did the work, when I sold you the product, when I showed you 10 sneakers, and I got to follow up with you. But like I said, in honor of Financial Literacy Month, getting paid in your business, it matters. Having the conversation around cash flow and around let me do this right quick. So having conversations around cash flow, invoices. So we actually when we're putting our fabulous talk together, Stephanie says, so do you have one of them stories about invoices and issues? I'm like, man, do I?
I'm sure you've seen so many issues, right?
Oh my God.
If there weren't any problems, you wouldn't have had a job, right?
Well, that's true for all of us, because actually when we went to launch our business, that's what we said. We said we were launching our business to solve a problem. I happen to solve the problem of collecting the cash, and so I guess I'll start with my story. So once upon a time in a land far, far away under the government space.
You gotta laugh about it, D, nowadays.
Yeah, once upon a time in a land far, far away in a supporting a government agency, I was working to close out a contract or deobligate some money. Deobligate some money means I was collecting the cash. I was collecting the excess cash. So this particular vendor and I have been we've been having the double Dutch conversation. I would send something over to them, they'd send something back over to me, and they're like, it's not right. And so what had happened was, about 3 years ago, the vendor had submitted their invoices to the government agency that I supported at the time, and they used the wrong contract number. So they had prepared all these invoices, put in contract number, blah, 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 submitted it into the system, and then they realized, oh crap, or some other choice words, we used the wrong contract number. So the invoices have been put in the system, been sitting there, and then they're wondering like, well, oh crap, we made a mistake. But they didn't know how to basically to retract the invoices and get them back. So they basically could correct them and put them on the right contract number and resubmit them to the right contract number, and then get them approved again, so they would actually get paid. So what happened was I was working this particular contract, and so the vendor was like really, really irritated, and I'm like, okay, hold up, why are you so mad? What's as I always say, what's the story? What had happened was, and they said, oh, we made a mistake 3 years ago. I'm like,
3 years ago.
I promise y'all, I'm not making this up. This literally happened 3 years ago. So they said 3 years ago we made a mistake on our invoices, and then we talked to our person who's supposed to approve them and said, hey, we made a mistake. We basically need to get them back, delete them out the system, we put some new ones in, and get approved. And I said, excuse me, I asked them, I said, so who did you talk to? And they're like, we talked to the core. The core is the contracting. I know I'm doing a lot of government speak this morning, but I'm trying to educate. But the core is the contracting officer representative. He or she is the person that basically approves your invoice for payment. So I said, okay, let me check with him or her and find out if they ever got these invoices. So what had happened was the invoices were submitted, but what happened was the cost transfer between the taking the old invoices out of the system, deleting them, and putting the new ones in the system and uploading them, that never happened because he didn't know that that's what happened, because all he saw was, oh, they made a mistake. X, cross out this one, put this one, keep it moving. I'm like, no, sir, that's not how it works. You have to take these invoices out of the system, delete them. Then we got to put the new invoices into the system. And because the invoices, the wrong invoices had already been in the system and the money had already been deducted, we needed to put it back, delete the old invoices, find the new invoices, put them back, and then move the money between the two. So for 3 years, this has been swirling. And because one of my 4 keys is problem solving, I'm like, okay, let's get to the bottom of it. So I literally wrote to the vendor and said, okay, hey, I'm taking over this account. I don't know what the story is, but I know this is a story. So in the email, explain to me what had happened so we can figure out how do we get from what had happened was to how do we win. The win is that the transfers happen, the old invoices are deleted, the new invoices are put on the system, and then you eventually, those get paid, and I can recover over $600,000, and all will be well. And so it took us a couple of weeks to untangle all the things, all the moving pieces. And I also had to explain to the person, I said, because you thought, and this when I talk about the fortune is in the follow-up, because you thought you had submitted the right, you had explained the story, thought the invoices had been deleted, replaced them with the new ones. You thought it had been put into the system, but it had never been approved for that transfer to happen from deleting the old ones and putting in the new ones. And they were like, wow. And then they said, well, D, nobody's ever explained this to us. I said, exactly. And I said, and that's part of the challenge when you don't do problem solving, because unfortunately what happens is a lot of us when we're dealing with our invoices, we put the information into the system, we think we've got it right, and we go and we just submit it. We never follow up. We never do quality control. We never make sure that all the information is correct. So this problem had been sitting for 3 years, and it probably would have been sitting longer, not tooting my own horn, but PB, if I had not asked the questions, because no one had asked the questions around, what was supposed to have happened, and then what should happen so we can actually fix it. I never think to bring the emails, but I have like a whole email. There's like a whole email chain of the whole conversation. We finally got it done, and the $600,000 got returned back to the government, and so all is well. But that's a huge story, but it's a thing that happens in the government space a whole lot. I know it happens in corporate as well, because what happens is that people don't like to pay attention to the details, and you and I both know the details matter. If you don't set up the invoice properly, if you don't use the right contract number or the right PO number, you don't have the right items. You don't put the remittance information on there. You don't have so how much it costs, all the things. If you don't prepare a proper invoice, unfortunately, it can get sent to the wrong department. It can be sent in email space, and it's just spinning. And you're like, well, how come I didn't get paid? Because you didn't follow up to make sure the invoice got to the right department. It's those things. People are like, does it really matter? Does getting your cash matter? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Does getting paid matter? Y'all let me know.
No, that's a great story, because I think not everyone maybe has such a complicated setup, right? But
Right.
Making sure the invoice information is correct is a huge thing. Even if it's as small as, did you send it to the right email address? Maybe that person never got it, and that's why you never got paid. But I feel like 3 years is a little too long to wait to figure out how to get $600,000 that hasn't been paid to you.
Well, it's not even. Well, the $600,000 is what I recovered after we got all the invoices, all the things transferred. I mean, that company wasn't owed the money. That money was coming back to the government. But because the amount I was trying to recover was, I think, $800,000, and so that's where and so when we started having the conversation, it was, well, no, D, you're not trying to recover $800,000. It's supposed to be $600,000, and I'm like, well, how? And that's when we found out that that's the story about the invoices. And I said, okay, so I talk about my one of my keys being problem solving. And I jokingly say, we're solving for back in the day, we used to solve for X in school. When you did your algebra class, it was like always solving for X. Well, my thing is like what had happened was I'm solving for X. If I hadn't asked the question about what were you trying to do, what did you need done, and then who did you send it to, and then basically go down the rabbit hole to figure out, okay, you submitted it, it was wrong, it never got corrected, it never got approved, the cost transfers to move the money from one account to another, one contract to another happened, all the things, it's all that stuff. But I know that I know for our audience that may or may not resonate with them because they're like, well, D, I don't have a government contract, or D, I don't have a large contract. But here's the thing, the lesson is, it's not so much about having a government contract as it is about paying attention to the details. Your invoice needs, for example, if you have a contract with, let's say you have a contract to get your house painted. Okay. You're going to prepare your invoice in whatever system, and you want to make sure that your information for the people you're going to pay, name of the vendor who's painting your house, the address, the phone number, if you're using ACH or EFT to pay them, they're painting how many rooms, when is it supposed to be done by, when they're supposed to get, and all the things. If you don't pay that properly, if they don't get paid. And so it's just setting up correctly in the system. And Stephanie, you can probably speak better to this because, of course, I come in it from a different angle. But the point of the lesson is, it's getting paid is important, but also following up on your invoices is important, tracking your invoices is important, making sure you do it, making sure you set it up correctly. And if you've noticed when it's supposed to be paid and it hasn't hit, what's your follow-up system? Who are you talking to find out what's going on? What's the story of, what had happened with, how come we haven't gotten paid?
Right. That's what I was saying. Like it could be something as small as the email was wrong, or the address was wrong, or they never got it, or whatever it was, and then it ended up not getting paid. And I think for my side of the house is like, let's say it's 600,000, 800,000, however much it is, that's a lot of money. And as a business owner and not getting the money that you're invoicing, right? You provided a service, you're trying to get paid for what you've done. That cash, you might need that cash to fund the next project in your business, or to fund, it could be payroll, or to keep rent, to keep the lights on. Like, you can't have all your money tied up, just sitting, because for one, you don't want to follow up, to your point, right? Like, what's your follow up? Because it might be uncomfortable or whatever it is. But you deserve that money. You've made it, and you need it to survive. Some companies really rely on that cash flow in and out of their business, and if it gets stuck, then you can be in a little bit of a pit because of that.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think the other piece is that I say it this way, collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. That's my tagline. Most people know me by that, but I talk about that because after you get your sale for whatever it is, it's not. Yes, I get it. You get the sale. You're like, woohoo! I got the sale. I got my new customer. Let's go. Got it. But after your sale, after you deliver the service or the product, after you invoice them, where's the next step? Is when do I get paid? And what's my tickler for if the payment hasn't come in? Whether it's an automatic payment, if it's old school, if it's a check, I don't know. But the point is, how are you tracking that to make sure that the money comes in your bank? To speak to Stephanie's point of, when the money comes in, what are you doing to make sure that you've got your money and that you're making sure you got paid, so that you can do what Stephanie said. Let's say you have a team. If you don't get your cash flow in, how do you pay your people?
Right.
How do you keep the lights on?
Right.
How do you do marketing? How do you plan for, like if you have, let's say you have a trucking company, so you got one truck. Well, if you don't, get your cash flow in, how do you plan for getting another truck so you can expand your business, or hire new people, or do marketing, or run ads, or whatever you're going to do? It's all the things, but the thing is it's the money. And I know, I get it, because everybody thinks that because we just submitted it, it's in there, we get it. And I understand. With technology, it normally is. I work in an industry where it takes a whole lot. So I know when I come on and tell these stories, you're like, my gosh, is it really like that? I wish I could screen share and let y'all see that whole email, because I'm telling you, it was 3 years of this mess going on. But what I also realize is that in a lot of industries, a lot of people just don't want to get into the weeds. I guess me and the weeds we just go together. You know, we just go together. It's just like
What I want to say, like, while there are complicated scenarios, there's less complicated. My business will send an invoice. We don't always set up like an auto payment. You know, it's not like you're subscribing to Netflix where they just charge you every month.
Right.
If you're a company that sends out invoices, or you're maybe in the service industry and you're sending invoices, you might need a retainer payment up front or whatever it is. Just because you send it doesn't mean someone's going to pay you. And I know we're talking kind of about like mistakes that you can make when it comes to your invoices. I want to add in that maybe how you've set up your invoice is part of the problem. So if you send someone an invoice and they don't pay you, well, did you check what terms you put on there? Maybe you gave them a net 60 and you didn't really mean to because you didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And you're wondering why they haven't paid you quickly enough, and it's like they're following the terms that you put on there, but maybe you just weren't familiar with what those terms were. So I think a lot of it is those attention to details and making sure that you really understand the information you're putting out there to even collect that money.
You know, Stephanie, thank you for sharing that. Actually, why don't you take a moment and explain why that matters? Because I think because people hear, you know, those of us in the financial space, we be throwing these terms around. You're like, oh, net 30, net 60, blah, blah, blah. You're like, what is that? So I think for people, especially because it's Financial Literacy Month, we want to make sure that people, as they're listening to us today, if you don't know what the terms mean, let's explain to them why it matters. And so as they're going forward the rest of this month, and especially going into next month, when they get a new client and they have to set up everything in the system, what's like 3 tips that we can give them to make sure they understand their contract, that they understand how to set it correctly, and to make sure that they get paid. If you don't mind teaching that lesson, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So the payment terms is how long you want to give someone to make the payment before they're past due, right? So you might see due on receipt. So as soon as they get the invoice, you want them to pay it. And hopefully they'll follow that, or at least within a few days, right?
Right.
The most common ones, I think, are net 15. So within 15 days of sending the receipt, within 30 days would be your net 30 or net 60, right? Within 60 days. So you're kind of giving them a buffer to make that payment. And so you want to make sure that you pick the terms that make the most sense for your business. Because if you are that company that needs money to fund your payroll and your operations, like, don't pick net 60. You need the money sooner than that, right? So pick something that's sooner than the net 60. Maybe it's the net 15 or even due upon receipt. And if that's the case too, you might consider taking retainer payments to get partially paid up front or something like that. That's a different strategy. But I also want to say, from a cash flow perspective, right, the shorter you make it for you as the person sending the invoice, the sooner you're going to get paid. But on the other side of that, like if I'm the person receiving that invoice, this is where I feel like it's kind of strange. If I want to hold on to my money as long as possible, I'm going to wait to the end of that deadline to pay you as late as possible, because I need to hold on to my cash as long as possible. So it is kind of this game you have to play of like, what you have to make it right for you, and also understand that other businesses are going to take advantage of the time that they need to hold on to their cash as long as possible. So seeing it from both sides.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I think that people need to understand, like, that's something that's not really spoken to a lot in business. A lot of people don't know, like, that's what they're doing, is that, you know, if you've got a small business and your cash flow is tight, you're like, I guess, you know, I bet if you put it in real life, let's say you got a bill that's due and you're like, I'm gonna hold on. I know I need to pay this bill, but I gotta divvy up all the things, and I'm not gonna be able to pay this bill until I'm like, I know it's due on the 15th. I might be getting it on the 14th, because I'm like, listen,
right,
I gotta eat, I gotta put gas in my car, I gotta go to Chick-fil-A or, you know, wherever to go. No, just, it was an example. It's just an example. I've got to go out to eat. Period. And the point is that you're holding onto your coins because you've got other things that are vying for your money, but this bill is due, and you don't want to get dinged on your credit report. You don't want to get dinged because you know you paid the bill late. Da 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 da. But the thing is, we do it in our personal life. We're like, okay, I'm holding on to these coins until absolute, because if I go ahead and pay this, yes, it makes sense to pay it up front, but then I'm going to be short like the rest of the month. And most of us don't like to do the noodle budget. We don't want to like live on ramen noodles for the rest of the week. We don't want to have to go to the dollar menu at whatever place. We don't listen. We don't want to be inconvenienced with our coins, because we're like, hey, but even in real life, we do this. And so in business, to Stephanie's point, again, thank you, Stephanie, for explaining that. We need to understand that if you got to look at how your business is set up in terms of your cash flow, and then how much money is coming in, and how much I mean, if you're expecting, 5,000 or say $10,000, this month. Well, okay, if you don't get the 5,000 this month, how does that impact you? And that might make you look at, okay, I was expecting this money, and then, oh, when I set up my terms with this customer, I did net 30. I can't wait 30 days. I need to change this. But because you don't know the terms and how it impacts your cash flow, you're just doing what somebody said. Oh, you should make it net 30. That'll work. You're like, I don't know how that works, but all I know is I'm stressed, and I'm like, oh, man.
Right. There's strategy behind each situation, and it's different for every company. So you do need to really think about how the cash flows in and out of your business to pick the right option for you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I will add, Dee, that so
Please.
last year we owed taxes back, and I was like, I waited till the day before to file my taxes, because I was like, I'm going to hold on to this money as long as possible. I'm not giving it back to the government. So we do that in our personal lives. We're like, I need to save cash for one reason or another. And businesses are the same way. And I think a lot of people do also fall on the other side. That's like, I get a bill, I want to pay it. I get a bill, I want to pay it immediately. And from holding on to your cash flow, the perspective of just that alone, it's like, you should wait to pay your bill until you have to pay your bill, because you have that cash on hand until you give it away.
Yeah, that's so funny though. But it's like, yeah, I mean, like I said, we do this in our personal life, and the thing is, I think it's also a mindset shift that we need to think about. Okay, I'm holding onto this money, which my hands are like this, they're super tight, and versus being open. And also there's I understand that, if you're a small business owner, you are until you get into the flow of, you bid on your contract, you win your contract, you got your money coming in, and you start to scale. Every dollar matters. And so of course you're like, okay, I'm counting. But the thing is, like, the energy that goes behind that feels like you're like on edge like all the time, and I understand that. But how do we shift that so that how do we give a shift that says, okay, yes, I need to get paid. Yes, I need to provide the product or service. Yes, I need to bill for my services or my product, and I need to get paid. But I also need to trust that I'm going to get paid. But also, I need to have a cushion. Maybe that's one of the things. Excuse me. Maybe that's one of the things that small business need to have, is to have a savings, a backup, something that covers them while they're waiting to get paid. I don't know. You can speak to that better than I can, but just trying to think, how do we...
I think that's a good. I want to tie it back to how your business is doing, right? Because we talk about profit and everything, and you could be making all these sales and you look like you're profitable, but that's not cash flow. And all what we're talking about really is how the money flows in and out of your business, and how people are paying you. So just because you're making sales and your business on paper looks really good, your cash flow is what really makes the difference, because you need cash to do all the things in your business. So it is that mindset of, I'm not just profitable, but I really need to pay attention to how the cash is moving into my business through this, and out of my business through the things I'm paying for, and figuring out, you have to watch it, right? And see where the ebbs and flows are. And it really makes a difference if you're a seasonal business, or depending on what's going on in the economy, to manage that. And you have to make strategic decisions about even as small as your payment terms, to make sure that it makes sense for you.
Great. I actually have a question about that, because I'd love to go back to talk about being looking successful or profitable on paper, because I think what happens is if everybody thinks, okay, I got the sale, which means I automatically got the money, and that's not true. Can you speak to that? Because I feel like that's one of the disconnects that people think, oh yeah, I mean, I just got this sale. It's it's 5,000, it's 10,000, it's whatever. And unless they paid you in full up front, it's usually you got to deposit. The way I understand it, you get a deposit, you got to do the services, the products, whatever, and if in my land, you're going to bill, pay. But that's not truly how that's not all of your cash flow. Am I going in the right direction? That's not all of your cash flow, is it?
No, and
Okay.
this is huge caveat, right? That every business is different.
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course.
there is that, but you're going to make a sale, and obviously, so we're talking about businesses that invoice. This isn't necessarily the same as someone who, like we said, like the Netflix style, or just charging people. But if you're sending out invoices, you make a $10,000 sale. Good, first of all, congratulations, good for
Right,
you.
right. Yeah.
But you're right, right. If you don't get that money on the bank, get that money on paper, it'll look like you have $10,000 worth of revenue, which is awesome. But there are other things that you need to keep in mind is the cost of providing that good or service. So if you're selling a product, like what are all the costs that go into that product, of making that product, of creating it, the materials and everything, and then after that, what's left over, we look at that too. But again, if you never got the money to begin with, you
Right.
still don't have that cash flow. So there's all the pieces that go into, on paper, what we look at as profitable. If I'm profitable, which is going to be your revenue minus your expenses, gives you your profit. But just because the piece of paper says you're profitable doesn't mean that the bank account matches that. And I would
That,
also say that just because you have money in the bank doesn't
mhm.
mean you have money to spend, because you might have other things that you need to pay for with that money. So there is a lot going on into your business finances that you have to pay attention to.
Thank you, Stephanie, for talking about that, because I think that's one of the misconceptions. It's like, oh, I got my sale, I did other things, I got my money in the bank, but um, you have while you get your sale and while you get paid, you also have to have, like Stephanie has spoken to, the process. Okay, so now yes, I've sold the $10,000 offer. They finally paid me the $10,000. But after the money actually hits the bank, what do I need to do? There's taxes. I'm sure that there's a whole list of things that have to happen with how to manage this money. And at the end of it, okay, what's the real profit? What's How much money is really left over for me to go do the things I want to do, like hire somebody, do ads, fill in the blank. I mean, it's
Pay
those.
yourself.
Pay yourself. Oh yeah, I
Right.
forgot about that. Yeah,
I gotta plug
yeah,
that one.
small concept. Oh yeah, you might want to eat today. Hey.
Right. And I think there are a lot of things that fall outside of your profit and loss. I don't want to go into all the terminology and jargon and everything, but
That's fine.
just to your point, like things that don't show up on your profit and loss are your taxes, or maybe you have loan payments, or you have car payments, and those kind of things. That impacts your money, right? That's money going out of your business, but that isn't necessarily like an expense. So just because those are things that don't show up on your profit and loss and don't technically impact your profit, but it still impacts your cash flow. So you have to remember, I still need money for these things.
Yeah.
So when come tax season, to your point, you don't want to get hit with a $20,000 tax bill, and we're like, oh, I don't have any money to pay that because I wasn't planning for it. Whereas you have to think through all of these things in advance and set yourself up to have that consistent positive cash flow so you can handle those surprises.
As I listen to that, Stephanie, what I hear is, just like you have your budget personally, and when you go, okay, I bring in X amount of dollars, and every line, every expense, every has a thing. So like you get your money, and let's say um, you save 10%. So that money is allocated. You have a savings account. You're saving 10%, or you're tithing, or whatever. Then you've got your mortgage or your rent, your light bill, cable bill, car note, um, entertainment, whatever. like whatever you brought in, and then after you deduct all the things, that's how much money you have left to do life for a month. It sounds to me like on the small business side, you kind of have to. It sounds like to me you have to set up the same way. Like you get the sale, you get this new contract at $10,000. Sounds to me like you also need to, if you're doing it correctly. And if this is making sense, let us know in the chat. Plus, also, Stephanie this is Stephanie's lane. You know, if y'all need help with how to do this properly, this is her business. You like FS, this is what they do. They actually teach you how to set up your business properly so that you don't end up with this huge tax bill. You're like, oh crap, what? Wait, what happened? So, having, let's say you get a sale for $10,000, it sounds to me like there needs to be a budget for that sale. It sounds to me like you need to prepare if you're doing taxes. It sounds to me like you need to have a special account that X amount of dollars for taxes needs to be set aside. X amount of dollars to pay you needs to be set aside. X amount of dollars for expenses, and it goes down. And once you finish all that, then this is what we have left to actually do the business, meaning do payroll. I'm sorry, payroll would be deducted down there, but this is what's left for us to, let's say, do marketing. Let's do a conference. Let's do whatever. It sounds to me like it. Just listening to the story, I'm seeing, just like we have a personal budget and we have line allocations. Sounds to me like as you're looking to do better in business, you need to have a structure and a plan, and assign your money. Where does it go, so that you don't get caught with a huge tax bill or anything else, in the future. And I feel like it's one of those things where if that's just not your gift, talk to Stephanie. Let's talk to Stephanie, and let's say, Stephanie, I'm gonna raise my hand and go, that ain't my gift. How do y'all work with people? How do you listen? If y'all have ever seen what's the movie? It's called The Associate, and there's a scene where this gentleman has this great multi-million-dollar business. The boyfriend's stuff is in a box. It's in a briefcase with rubber bands. He's got paperwork on paperwork on paperwork, and I forgot the lady's name, but he brings it to her, and he says, can you make sense of all of this? And so she puts it into spreadsheets and color codes it and cross-reference it and pivot tables and all the things. And he's like, all of this is there? He's like, yeah. But it takes somebody who can see, yes, this is a mess, but we can untangle it, and it sets you up with systems so that you can continue to be brilliant in your lane of brilliance, but also have the systems to help support you as you continue to grow. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And we do help people with that. But I do want to add, like, I'm sure you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, right? In the envelope method, you take cash out for your own personal budget, right? Like, I know I'm never going to spend more than this. So there is that version of that in the business world with Mike Michalowicz, if you've heard of him, with Profit First. And we do Profit First for our own business, and we do encourage other people to do it for the same reasons. And Profit First, you set up separate bank accounts for that reason. You have your income account, and then you have your operational expenses account, and then you have your taxes account, and you have a vault account for your savings or extra money you're going to pay yourself. And you set up all these separate accounts. And then that way, every time you make that sale, I sold that $10,000, I'm going to take a percentage of that and put it into each of these buckets. So I am allocating money appropriately. And if you have budgeted before, you would know that I need a certain percent of my sale to go to all of my expenses, because I know what my expenses are. So you can set that money aside and run your business knowing that you have enough cash for your expenses and knowing that you're collecting enough money to pay your taxes. So it is actually a really great method. And if you haven't heard of it, I would say go get the book Profit First and read that, or the audio book. And I think it's a really great place to start. And you don't have to open up all the bank accounts. You can just start with one, right? Start small and work your way up. One thing he's really big at is making sure you pay yourself. It's really important. We're all in business to make money. And you shouldn't be making that the last priority for you. You should be planning to pay yourself as part of this process. But all of it is dependent on the cash flow, which is where D comes into the picture, right? Because just because you made that sale doesn't mean you have the actual cash. You have to have the cash to do all of the other things. It's so important.
Exactly. And I feel like this. I feel like there's this. I'll do this. Excuse me. I feel like there's this. First of all, great conversation. I'm so glad that we decided to do this during Financial Literacy Month. I feel like And thanks to everybody who's listening and in the chat. I will come back and comment once we're done. Um, I think that people don't understand this part of business because this isn't the sexy stuff. It's just not. I mean, I jokingly talk about it all the time. Excuse me. It's not sexy, but to me, what's super sexy is getting a sale and then getting paid.
Right.
they
Right.
go together. Listen. Sales and AR in my world, they go together, and I believe that as we continue to do these cash flow chronicles and have these conversations, I feel like we're adding another nugget of knowledge that people can go away and go, okay, what did she say about that profit first? Okay, let me Google that. Let me go get the book. What did she say about Dave Ramsey? Okay, you talking about the snowball effect or the whatever? Yeah, all the things. Because here's the thing, you're not going to get any better. I'll say this way: you are not going to get any better in your business if you don't invest in you first.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say it again for the people in the back. You are not going to get any better in business until you start investing in you first. Because most of us, when we start our business, I jokingly say it's like this. On a Friday night, I was out with my buddies. We had some chicken wings and some tequila or whatever you sip on. Okay, great. Hey, I got this great idea. You jot it down on this napkin, or put it in my phone, in my notes in my phone, and we're like, okay, I'm gonna create whatever it is. And you get out there and you get started, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I don't know nothing about business. I know how to make these chicken wings or whatever you're gonna do. And you're like, okay, so I gotta learn what? And you're like, good grief. And then if you go back and listen to the replay, Stephanie lays out very succinctly all the things you gotta know or the things you need to have in place. And you're like, I didn't know I needed to do all that. I just thought I could get out here and just sell my stuff and get my coins. And I'm like, listen, we good. You're like, you tell me I gotta have a business bank account. I gotta have a EIN number, and I need to have articles of organization to be legitimately set up in the state, whatever state you live in. And I gotta go get insurance, and I gotta go get this, and and your head starts spinning. But here's the thing: in order for you to get better in business, you have to invest in you, and investing in you could be as simple as get the books. We just told you there's Profit First. I forgot. I think I know his first name is Mike. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Mike McAllowitz.
McAllowitz. Okay, so
Yeah.
Profit First. Profit First. If you're listening, taking notes, get Profit First. I think he also does like free webinars to talk about this information. If not, I'm sure you could Google it, go on YouTube.
Yeah. He's got so many books too on different strategies for your business. He's a slew of information.
Yeah. So there's that. Secondly, Stephanie mentioned Dave Ramsey. I know he's the personal finance guru and teaches you about budgeting and saving and getting out of debt and all the things. So there's that. Also, just deciding to invest in yourself, meaning, okay, you had the great idea to launch a business. Hey, let's go. But especially if you're a solopreneur, your business grows as you grow. And if you don't invest in you, you're not going to be able to do more things. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, what don't I know? So maybe you go to the Small Business Development Center and they have free services that help you figure out, okay, I just launched this business, or I have this idea for this business, and I need to know, okay, I heard Dee and Stephanie talking about I got to get this cash flow together. I got to figure out these expenses. I got to figure out how to pay myself. I got to figure out how to sell, all these things. Well, go invest, go get the free training from them. There's also an organization called SCORE. They do free mentoring, and you can I think it's score.org. You can ask for a mentor, and then at least sit down and have a conversation and say, listen, this is my idea. This is what I'm working on. I need some additional help with how to figure this out to make sure that this actually this idea won't just stay as an idea. I can actually make a business from this, meaning I can sell a service, I can sell a product, I can whatever. And then understand that this journey, it's a journey. I mean, how Stephanie and I are here today, we both have been on this journey for a while. I mean, we both have, our experiences from our career, but we also have been investing in ourselves, and we keep growing and keep getting better, which is why, we're out here today. I mean, we had a conversation about how can we be of service to the small business community and teach them, on both sides. I always talk about collect the cash, but we decided to bring the cash and the cash flow together, because it's not either or, it's a both and how can we be of service to help y'all get better at what you do, and face this thing and not be afraid that, oh my gosh, I gotta go ask my client to pay me, or I gotta address this issue, or I gotta whatever. Well, I say it this way: as confident as you would have asked for the sale, you have to learn to be just as confident to ask for the money. They go together. It's like collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money is in the bank. I hope y'all hear that. It's not it's the sale. Yes, the pom poms, celebrate the sale. But after you get the sale, you need all the things that Stephanie talked about, because it's that's how the sale is complete. The money's in the bank, but you also can actually do things in your business and pay yourself so that you can keep going.
Right. No, and I would add that you have a whole thing about mindset, right? Like we have to shift our mindset. And I think working on yourself and work on your mindset and gaining that confidence and doing this process just over and over again, it helps you grow as a person. It'll help you grow as a business owner. And you have to get into the mindset of an entrepreneur. Because to your point, like we typically all start a business because we're good at something.
Yes.
The chicken wings or whatever, or AR, I'm in the cash flow space, whatever it is. And I don't think no one really says, okay, before you decide to do this, don't forget you have to learn sales and marketing and finance and budgeting and how inventory management and don't forget, technology just in general, and AI is here, and you have to do all of it until you can get to the point where you can bring people on. So it is worth the investment. It is worth working on your mindset and getting that confidence, because as you do that, you'll just grow naturally as a business owner and make big progress and strides in your business. And I think part of that too is making sure that you are open to realizing that you're not an expert at everything, right? Like we're never going to be. You're going to be an expert in a certain area. You'll be better in other areas. And then there's going to be some places that you're just like, this isn't my jam and I need help with that. And you either go get those resources, partner with people who have that, or you hire somebody, and that becomes part of your journey as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Stephanie, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't understand. I think they think because I just jumped out here and said, "Oh yes, my business, got it, let's go," and you're like, "Wait, what?" And I also think there's a pride thing, because it's a lot of us we're like, I don't want to have to go ask for help. I don't want to have to go ask for help. I'm smart. I'm degreed. I'm da. Great. Your smartness or your intelligence, your degrees, your experience, fantastic in your career space. Once you decide that you're going to go from being this person that's in a career to launch a business, whether you're a solopreneur or create a company or whatever you're going to do, there's yes, you can pull from your experience. That's what I've done. That's where Collect the Cash came from. It comes from my experience. But I had to go, and still have to go, learn how to do all the things. Learn how to sell. I have to learn about marketing. There are still some things that I still have to learn, because even though I've had a successful career as a contract administrator, I've recovered millions of dollars, all the things. That doesn't necessarily transfer over to, okay, D, how do you put together a sales pitch? How do you do market research? How do you market your business? How do you talk about what you do and not sound like an employee? How do you talk about what you do and don't use all these government acronyms? Don't nobody know what you're talking about. They're like, what is all these letters? What does this mean? I don't know what this is. Listen, make it make sense. So I say that because when I first came on the scene, my first thing was called "How Secure Is Your Cash Flow," and I did that. That was my thing. It was like, "How secure is your cash flow?" And I used to try to talk about what I've done in AR and the AR space, the government space, and blah blah blah. And here's what I found out: nobody understood what I was talking about. They're like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "What are you trying to sell? What are you selling?" At the time, I didn't really know what I was selling, because I thought I was selling, my services, but I didn't really have a plan. I didn't have an offer. There was a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know. So I kind of jumped out here. I was like, yeah, I'll secure your cash flow. And I'm out here, just listen, just trying to make this thing work. And it's like, it's not working. So thankfully, I'd gone to a workshop and I posted my what I was trying to do, and a buddy of mine said, "Dave, you collect the cash. Your your service, what you do is you collect the cash for companies. You teach them, small ones, small and medium sized ones, how to, look at an aging report, how to figure out the invoices, how to do problem solving." He said, "That's what you do." He said, and we're going to, the shift is going to be going from how secure is your cash flow to collect the cash. And then we're going to build your business around what you do. And your thing is you collect the cash. And he said it. You always say the sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to build this, from here. But here's the thing. When we talked about earlier about, recognizing they need help, I knew that what I was talking about wasn't landing anywhere. And so I'm so grateful that I went to the workshop. I'm so grateful that I was vulnerable enough, put my stuff on those big white Post-its. I was laying out all my stuff, and he came through with his marker, and he was like, "It's collect the cash." And that's how I accepted the help. I accepted the inspiration to change it, and then went on another journey to say, okay, so this is what you do, this is how you do it, and then these are the ways you can serve companies. You can teach them, you can work with them, you can do the work for them. But the point was, if I had not invested in me to go to that workshop, I would have never made that change. I would have never known I needed to shift, because what I was saying wasn't landing anywhere. Nobody got it. Excuse me. Excuse me. But I'm glad I did. And the point of that story was to say that, listen, you may start out on your business journey with one idea or one thing, and then you might wake up and go, okay, this ain't working. It's kind of like Goldilocks. This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This is finally just right. When I finally got my just right, which was collect the cash, it's blossomed into all these things now. But I've been on a journey to grow personally and professionally, to learn all these things. I still have to take classes. I still have to invest in myself. I still have to learn all the things. And so just know that, if you're as you're listening today and you're like, oh my gosh, well, I thought this was going to be super easy. I just thought I was going to throw something up there and pick in QuickBooks, hit the little button, and I'm out. Wait, what? I got to learn all the other stuff? No, I don't want to do all that. But hey, if you want, because entrepreneurship is a personal and professional development journey. That's what it is. And none of us knows what all of us knows. And the blessing is that if you get started, and then you make great connections like with Stephanie, and then you get into groups, and you get into you have, because you can't do all this by yourself. It's just not possible. Anyway, a long story, but hey, those are my thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Stephanie. I love that, Dee, and I think it's encouraging, right? We got to find other people, find your support system, and I'd be a forever learner, right? There's always something new to learn. There's always something to adjust. You can learn from other people, learn from people who have gone before you, right? So long as someone else is one step ahead of you, you have something that you can learn from them. And I think just taking that mindset too, and just really running with the fact that we can always learn something from everyone else, it will make you a better person, and it'll make you a better business owner. But this is a great conversation, Dee.
Hey, thank you. I think it's so important because, excuse me, as you're on your journey, you're gonna run up against things like, I don't know. Stephanie talks about technology, so there's new technology that you have to learn. So you mentioned AI, so a lot of people are trying to embrace, working to embrace AI, and how do you use AI in your business, in your marketing, and your other things. In my space, in the AR space, AR stands for accounts receivable. So there are companies now that have taken my whole process of how I collect the cash, excuse me, and they've created a whole software. So they've got everything from the invoicing to the customer to the emails that are sent out to the follow-ups. Everything that I teach, they now have a software system that actually does all those things. And I actually just had a conversation with somebody about that. I said, but where's the problem-solving part in the software? And they were like, yeah, that part. They're like, well, we don't really do problem solving. And I said, right. So you're banking on the fact that once you enter this information into the system, once you land the sale, you do all the things, blah, 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 you're banking that everything that's entered in the system across all the dots is correct. So what happens if there's a mistake made? Oh,
you don't get paid. I would add, where's the human aspect and the empathy and the I know deep, like we've had many conversations, but if someone's having hard times, like you might need to have a conversation with them, and AI is not going to do that for you. Like
Yep.
you need to be real with people, and maybe you need to set up payment terms or something that you hadn't planned on to begin with. And AI is not going to do that for you.
Nope.
So
Is that absolutely not? And then, so when we were having the conversation, because the gentleman I was speaking with, he was just like hammering on the software, and I finally had to say to him, listen, I appreciate that you want me to try to use this software in my business, but that's not how I teach. That's not what I do. And I said, the software is great, and I think yes, can AR be improved through software? Absolutely. But I told him, I just suggested that today. Just don't forget the human part of this, because I said, I promise you, even though the system looks great, I said, when you show me how much money is owed by these different customers, who's had the conversation with them? Who's done the problem solving? Who's found
I
out
was
what
going to say, just because someone gets an invoice in their inbox doesn't mean they want to open it for one or
Yep.
pay it. So
Yeah, and and after he was talking about that, he was like, we never thought about that. I said, I understand that. He's like, how do you know this? I said, because I've been doing this for over 20 years. This is what I do. So listen. I said, if I was going to add this into what I do with Collect the Cash, it's going to be the human side plus the software, because you need both. And because I come from the government space, I know that even with all the new technology, there still has the story I started. We started out the conversation with the story about having how a human, not the software, could untangle an issue that had been lingering for 3+ years. Your technology is great, and it's a great tool, but it's only as good as the people who use it and understand it, and also still have the problem solving and analytical skills to untangle things. Because especially in the world I work in, I'm untangling stuff all day. I'm problem solving all day. That's what I'm doing. And so yes, I use technology to do all my things, but there are times when it's like, okay, I need more than just the technology. But yeah, this has actually been a really fun conversation. It's been great just to talk about AR and cash flow and getting paid, but also understanding the mindset of a business owner. And even if you're not there yet, or you are there, or you're already well on your journey, you still have to retweak every once in a while. You gotta look around and go, okay, I'm at this level. How do I want to get to the next level? So what's the investment I'm gonna have to make in me and on my business to get there? Does it mean taking classes? Does it mean getting in groups? Does it mean taking a course? I don't know. You'll have to figure that out. But none of us knows what all of us knows. And here's the thing. If you want your life to get better, your life will get better to the degree that you invest in you. Find your connection partners like myself and Stephanie and others, and know that this is a journey. It takes a while for that to kind of sink in, because you're like, what you mean it's a journey? I just thought like, nah, I promise you, it's a journey. How do I know that? Doing lives. Okay, here's a practical example. Stephanie and I were just talking about this. She was like, I don't really do lives. I said, well, I've done a few of them, and I'm like, you know what? Guess what? Here's the next thing in our journey. We're gonna come together and do these cash flow chronicles, share stories, share some nuggets, teach what we know, put our websites at the bottom, and say, hey, if you for example, myself, if you're looking to get better with collecting outstanding invoices and you want to learn my 4 core keys, I'll put my site up here. So now let me just go ahead and do the switch. So my service, my offer is this: if you have invoices and contracts and you've got clients that owe you money, and you're like, D, I got the heebie-jeebies with having to ask them for these payments, go to www.collectthecash.biz/book. Grab my book. I give you the formula in my book on how to do what I've been doing for over 20 years. So again, it's www.collectthecash.biz/book. And if the book doesn't work for you, there's a link where you can schedule a call with me. We can just talk about what's going on. Then you can say, yeah, G, I think I want to work with you, or I want to hire you to come in and teach us how to do this, because we need to get better at this, because we've got great sales, but our money isn't in the bank and we don't know how to do this. We want to do it better, and we don't want to mess up the client relationship. So that's me. Let me go ahead and switch this. Let Stephanie give her her fabulous pitch about what she does and all the things. Go ahead, Stephanie, tell the people what you do.
And I will add that Dee loves to talk. If you haven't noticed, she's a talker. You can find her live in lots of places, all of her recordings. So go look her up online. You just Google her and you'll see all of the places she is, which is awesome. But thank you, Dee. But if you're looking to find out more about me, me and my husband own New Light Financial Solutions. We offer outsourced CFO services where this whole conversation about where's my money, how is money coming in and out of my business, we work with business owners to help them gain clarity and confidence and generate more cash in their business. And we do that through a process of ours. And we would love to help you figure out the cash flow in your business, generate more cash flow in your business, and just be more successful. So it's like, once you get that sale and you get the cash in the bank, how can you use that to grow and do the things that you want to accomplish in your business? And you can find out more about me on my website. It's newlightfs.com. That's financial solutions. So newlightfs.com.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for agreeing to do Cash Flow Chronicles during the Financial Literacy Month. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you have gained some great knowledge. Again, I'm Dee Bowden, author and creator of Collected Cash. This is Stephanie Smith with New Life Financial Services. We want to thank you for your time. Have a great Saturday. Take care, y'all. Cheers.
Bye, everyone.